Okay, so some people have reached out wanting to know more about who I am, why Wild Earth Coffee. Some people that know me and kind of know the journey. Before I get into it, I don't know if you're going to see it. Look at that. That's amazing. Um, one of my friends said, dude, you should do a video that talks from the boardroom to the backwoods and or the Wild Earth Coffee journey, whatever. I don't know if it needs to be that elaborate. I'm just going to tell you kind of how we got here. And it starts here in Colorado. Um, my wife and I have been together for 32 years now, and we met outside of Denver. And when I met her, that was when I started thinking about getting serious in my life with career and how are we going to support ourselves, that kind of thing. And one of the first jobs that I got was working for Hewlett Packard. And I worked at the technical call center for one of their specific product lines, and it was great. Been there about a year and a half, and the new CEO of the company decides they're going to carve out this new business called Agilent Technologies. And it just so happens in the makeup of all of this carve out that my department isn't really needed, and so they offered us early retirement. And I'm pretty stoked because I'm like, wow, I've only really been working a year and a half and already I'm going to retire. What I found out was that was just fancy words for you're getting laid off. You won't have a job next week. So trying to figure out what to do, and a friend of ours invites us to a barbecue. And at this barbecue, I meet a person who introduces himself and tells me that he is a corporate recruiter, an executive recruiter. And I had no idea what that was, but he basically told me he helps people find jobs. And I thought that was pretty cool. And he said, as a matter of fact, I'm looking for a very specific type of person. And he goes, we've got a customer in the telecom world that needs engineers that know how to program in a Windows-based environment, taking old legacy code and putting it in Windows. And he gave me some more parameters, and he said, matter of fact, if you find a person and I'm able to get them a position, he goes, I'll reward you with a finder's fee of $5,000. And I heard that number and was just blown away. And I said, well, how many people are you looking for? And he said, as many people as you can find. Now, I didn't tell him that I knew of an entire company of people that might need a new job, right? And so I went back to work at Hewlett Packard and I started talking to people. And there were a lot of people that were going to need a job after their layoff. And so I just started referring them. And lo and behold, within a matter of months, I had made $60,000 to $70,000 in finder's fees. And that opened the door where the company, the recruiting company, called me and said, hey, have you ever thought about being a recruiter? And so I took on the opportunity, and that opened the door to direct hire placements. And I started learning about what it took to get a very specific individual into an organization when the company wanted to keep it on the down low, that they were looking for this type of position. And matter of fact, I'm in a meeting once, and one of the directors is describing what they're looking for and basically looks up and just says, Kurt, I want you to find me the purple squirrel. And the purple squirrel was somebody that, was rare. I guess today it would be like, everybody's looking for the unicorn, right? That's what the unicorn reference is. And so I did that, and I got really good at it. I got known for finding people that were highly specialized, already working, usually for the competitor. And I got really good at taking people out of companies and putting them in other companies. So it was a fun ride. I met a lot of companies. If we were in IT, engineering, telecom, finance, and biotech. And if you think about some of the firms that are in those industries, I worked with them. And it was exciting. Money was great. But here's the thing. I was getting burnt out. I was stressed. I mean, I was in my mid-30s and had already been at the hospital 3 different times, and the doctors would come back and say, you didn't have a heart attack, and you really need to think about your lifestyle. And although my family and I were doing great, my wife and I were doing great, I just never saw them. I was working all the time. And I realized I had seen my son more at my office than I did actually at home, and I was ready to change. So a friend of mine, surfing buddy in California, gets on with this company called Buffini and Associates. Brian Buffini was a a real estate professional that systematized his business between and around contact, care, and community. And my buddy got a job there, and he recommended me for the other position they were looking for, and I got it. And I needed that job because, one, his system was something that I was just doing naturally, but it gave me a framework to do it better. And I started with him, and more importantly, he was really into personal growth and development. And I got to work on myself. I got to realize kind of what was driving me and how to have work-life balance and how to understand goals that actually served me. It was just an amazing time. And through his events and associations and things that he brought on, it opened the door to other personal growth professionals like Zig Ziglar. I met Zig, I've met Jim Rohn. In the San Diego area at the time, Tony Robbins was in that area. I got to meet Tony. That was separate from Brian, but I got to meet Tony. Matter of fact, through one of these events, I actually got to meet Neil Armstrong. That was pretty cool. So this is a great time, but a lot of the pressures and a lot of things that were going on in our life, we had a death in the family that really took a toll on us. The high lifestyle of recruiting, I was making a ton of money, but I was spending a ton of money. And so my wife and I decided it was time for an environmental change. And I'm kind of exaggerating, but we literally opened up the map and said, where do you want to go? And pointed to Panama City Beach, Florida, and that's what we did. Now, here's an interesting thing. We're getting ready to make this move, but at that time, a company opens up, and it's a coffee company. And I know these people through my Buffini associates. And their whole deal was they wanted to make a coffee product, sell it through traditional sales channels, and for every ounce of coffee they sold or every pound of coffee they sold, they wanted to take a portion of it and give to charitable causes. And something that people would use every day and do good with it. And I loved that idea. But I'm in a situation where I can't really devote a lot of time and energy to help them. So I didn't get to fully explore that company. And eventually that company didn't really go anywhere. They couldn't really break outside of their small little market in San Diego that they were in. But that idea stuck with me. So I get down to Panama City Beach, and through a roundabout way, we actually end up in Destin, Florida, not Panama City Beach. And as I'm getting to figure out what I want to do there, I start working out at a local gym. And one day I'm just kind of in a funk, and the friend of mine, the gym owner, says, kind of sounds like you're missing the vibe of California. Have you thought about going to YOLO Board, the paddleboarding shop here in town, and just hang out at the boards, get in the environment, and maybe that'll give you a little boost of energy. And so I go there and I meet with the owner of the company, and we're talking, and he just kind of says, look, I have an opportunity while you're figuring out what you want to do here. I could really use somebody at our second shop. It's a small little rental hut that does paddle boards and bicycles for the people going up and down Highway 30A. And he goes, I can't really pay you anything, but you could figure yourself out and stare at the Gulf of Mexico every day, or Gulf of America. And so I took the job, and I ended up loving that job so much. And paddleboarding, that opened the door to paddleboarding. And paddleboarding, I had found my calling. I had found my thing, right? And through the paddleboarding adventures, people started following me. This social media kept growing. And I mean, if you don't know me, my social media personally is called Barefoot Kurt. That's where I kind of got the nickname. And I would go out every single morning and paddleboard with dolphins. And sometimes it was one dolphin, and he or she and I would spend hours together, or it was a pod of hundreds in the middle of them. I encountered sharks, manta rays, sunrises and sunsets, and I started sharing that on social media just as a way for people to take a break and enjoy. But that developed my love of the environment and the waters. I mean, I had always liked it in California and before as well, but it connected me to it. And so I'm grateful to YOLO Board for that and opening that door. This is where I also had some time to start exploring the hiking and what I did. If I wasn't on the water, I wanted to be on a trail and just getting around in this environment, right? was absolutely incredible. So as YOLO Board was progressing, one of the owners had the idea of starting a coffee company. He wanted to, he had a vision and a memory of his father always having a cup of coffee in his hand, and some of the best times were around a cup of coffee. And so he wanted to develop that as a product, and that's what he did. I got to be a part of that. I got to help pick flavor profiles. I got to help identify roasters. I got to help be a voice on the bags and the design of it. And it was totally cool. And it was a small vision as to what it takes to build a product and bring it to the market. And it also blended. You could have a lifestyle and have coffee be a part of your lifestyle brand, a lifestyle that you lived every day. And so that really stuck with me as well. And it kind of gave me the piece that said, wait, what if you had a product that actually did good and embraced the lifestyle that you were trying to live? And so the third company came about while I was at YOLO Board. They came out as, hey, you should add our product. And they infused mushrooms and vitamins and minerals and all kinds of things in the coffee. And although that one was interesting to me and they wanted me to help them grow and be a part of it, it just wasn't in line with what I wanted to do at the time. But all through my career, I'd had these exposures to building a coffee company. And truthfully, it was exciting, but even then, they'd never really be mine. So we leave YOLO Board. I left YOLO Board because we were getting close to a goal of ours, which was have our son graduate from high school, sell the house, buy a van, and travel the country, which we did. But during the time that I left YOLO Board and we were getting him to graduate high school, our son, I started Barefoot Board and Rentals, which was a paddleboard tour company. And I basically went out every day like I always do and brought people along with me and got them to paddleboard with dolphins. It was a lot of fun. And again, met a ton of people, built a bunch of great relationships. But when my son graduated high school, we got in our van, we took off, and my wife and I spent the next 6 years on the road traveling this country, which was amazing. And along the way, one of our things was if we visited a place, we wanted to at least spend the night and do something that state is known for and have a great cup of coffee. So I got different flavors, I met different people, and started building relationships that I would eventually call upon. And while we're traveling, we're back in the Panhandle taking care of some business, and I meet a volunteer at a state park. And this volunteer tells me, she says, you know, if you volunteer to work at the state park, they'll give you a place to stay, a site, and you're only responsible for 24 hours a week. And I thought that would be fun, give back to the state parks and work in a state park for a while in exchange for an RV site or a van site. Loved it so much that opened the door for them to offer me a job as a park ranger. And when that happened, I took it and I got heavily involved in taking care of the nature preserve and being a part of turtle nesting season. And that was life-changing as well. I mean, watching these little baby hatchlings work their way to the water to start their journey, seeing what a mother sea turtle has to do to get to the beach and build a nest, it just was amazing. Being in the preserve and understanding the ecosystems and how fragile they are and yet how resilient they are, it was incredible. So this is where my love of conservation really solidified. And so I just felt compelled to want to do something. We end up leaving the state park so that we could do this little 2-year hiatus back in Colorado, and we're here for family reasons and building stronger relationships and that kind of thing. And while we were doing that, I said, you know, now is the time. The technology is here, the partnerships, the ecosystem to be able to have partners that could be anywhere and still supply a good product is here. I think it's time to start looking at a new opportunity for me, but at the same time do something good with it. And that's how I came up with Wild Earth Coffee. I was having a cup of coffee thinking, man, this would be so cool. And I went to my first experience and I said, what if you used a product every day and it did good, right? And I wanted it consumable so that people would use it again. And so what do people love? They love coffee. What if we sold really good specialty roast coffee, and with that we took a portion of every sale and gave it to charitable causes? Well, those causes would be my passions, which are wilderness, water, and the wild, right? The trails. So what if we kept the trails open, the water's clean, and the wilderness wild? And I finally have a mechanism to do all that, and that's Wild Earth Coffee. I have a great roasting partner. They're out of Bend, Oregon. They work with some of the world's greatest bean importers and suppliers. And so when a customer goes to wildearthcoffee.com and places an order for coffee, they get fresh roasted coffee from the time of order. A portion of those proceeds goes into an account. And when I hit certain milestones, we pick a charitable organization where I know the money will go directly to that cause, and it will go to keeping our trails open, our waters clean, and our wilderness wild. And it's working. Matter of fact, it's working so well that I am constantly just grateful for everybody that's participating. Whether you just did one order to support us and support the idea, you're on the monthly subscription where you receive it every single month, or you're one of the coffee shops or business organizations that have us in their facilities, I'm just grateful for you all. And that's it. I mean, hopefully kind of this description of who I am and what I'm about gives you a better understanding of the journey and how this company came about. You can understand a little bit more about me and why I'm so passionate about the things that we give to. And that's it. So, I hope this opens the door for more exploration into Wild Earth Coffee. I hope it inspires you to maybe go do something. And if nothing else, I just appreciate you hanging out with me. So that's going to be it for now. Thanks for listening. I hope to see you on the next adventure. And y'all take care. Be good.